2 o'clock, I'd like to order. Uh, start my government will start about technology. I'll say that we're sitting here and I'll have the nation and that these nations and these waters uh, more up to the agenda. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Okay. Seeing none. Carried. The adoption of the minutes from October the 7th. And I get another video about seconder. Question in favor of adopting the minutes. Okay. None. The passes. And moving on to item 5, development permit application DP 100854. Anita, would you like to give an introduction before we move on to Ryan?
Can I just interrupt for 1 sec? I'm having a really hard time hearing the audio.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's anything that could be done to help that. Sorry, it's very faint and a little bit muffled.
Thanks. There you go. Can you hear me better now, right?
Barely.
Okay, I'll just hold it right by me. Does that work?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, I would just like to start off with saying that all 3 applications on the agenda involve triplexes on Ocean Avenue. This one in particular at 9601 5th Street is for a 3-unit, 3-story residential development at the corner of 5th Street and Ocean Avenue at the northeast corner of the roundabout intersection. 2 units are within the 1st and 2nd story, while the 3rd unit is almost entirely contained on the 3rd story of the building. There's additional storage areas for each dwelling unit at the rear of the building, as well as 1 on-site vehicle parking space for each dwelling unit. The building would be in a modern style with a combination of vertical wood shiplap siding, corrugated metal, and stucco on the facades. The subject site is designated as multi-unit residential. It generally complies with the objectives and policies within the official community plan. However, I'd like to note that the OCP has not yet been updated to address small-scale multi-unit housing, so there may be some inconsistencies in that aspect. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the subject property is zoned townhouse residential. Earlier this year, the zoning bylaw was updated to allow for small-scale multi-unit housing on multi-family zoned properties. That's to ensure consistency with the provincial legislation. Staff have reviewed the proposal and determined that it's in full conformance with the zoning bylaw requirements. Looking at the multi-unit residential development permit guidelines, overall staff are of the opinion that the proposed development is generally consistent with the applicable design guidelines. The building includes elements such as balconies and step backs that create recesses in the building face that add depth and detail. The building also uses traditional elements such as wood and neutral tones to help provide consistency with surrounding properties. It's well connected with pedestrian connections on site. One thing staff would like to note though, while the development does conform to a majority of the design guidelines, there are 2 areas of potential improvement or discussion. So the first is ensuring the proposed landscaping sufficiently screens the parking areas from view from Ocean Avenue, given that it's on a corner lot. And the second item is, while the south frontage includes a lot of well-articulated features, staff are of the opinion that the west frontage could potentially be improved in comparison to ensure the design maintains a full level of articulation across both street frontages. I'll hand it back to you, Eric.
Wait for your mic. Thank you, Selena.
Ryan, would you like to give us your review of this?
Yes, I'd be happy to do so. Just before I launch in here, can everybody hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'll share my screen now and give a brief outline on this particular proposal. I'll come back to that image here in a second. So I'll just start on this screen. We have 3 applications on the agenda today. All 3 of them I will be presenting to you. I think it's important to note that not all of these properties are owned by the same person. So while I'm presenting them all, they are not necessarily all attached from that perspective. So to be specific, 9601 Fifth Street, which we will review first, is owned by one developer, and then the 2 applications, 9601 4th Street and 2436 Ocean, they are owned by a different developer. So, I would say it could be something where these 2 are looked at a little bit more closely attached and this be a little bit more independent. However, they are fairly cohesive and fairly consistent, recognizing they are along the same street. So, we've approached these with the mind that while they're a different client and a different owner, we're trying to create a cohesive product all the way along the street here. So I just thought I'd point that out. The other thing that I'd like to point out in all 3 applications, I think staff's done a really great job. Very detailed staff report that I think well articulates the application and highlights a lot of the key points and key things. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to repeat a lot of that. And I think what will be important here is just to touch on a few elements that I think we can just build on a little bit that helps to understand some of the specifics in this case for this application that I think are worth noting. The first would be when we're looking at this application for 9601 Fifth Street in comparison to the 2 that we'll look at later. The zoning is actually slightly different here, where these 2 properties, 9601 4th and 2436 Ocean, fall into the R1 zone, which gives us 50% lot coverage in this case. 9601 Fifth Street is in the RM5 zone, so it is in a multifamily zone. And the OCP update that came through earlier in the year basically allowed provisions where this property could be developed in accordance with the R2 zone, which increased a lot of the density from the RM5 zone as far as getting to 3 stories, but it does limit lot coverage to 45%. So we are slightly more limited in building footprint on this one as compared to what you'll see in the other subsequent two. And I think that'll be something you note when we look at the difference in how parking is provided in this application versus the subsequent two. So that's a little bit of background. I'm just going to carry through. So this is the three-story building here. This is the view from Ocean Avenue, and you can see the extension of Fifth Street up the west side, and then this would be the laneway off of the east side. And the breakdown for these buildings are all fairly consistent. There's 3 units, so the lower 2 floors are 2-story units, and then the upper unit is a single-story penthouse style unit. So it's with stairs and an elevator access to the top floor, single level living up on the top floor. Again, this is just sort of what I had highlighted previously, where all of the properties along Fifth Street are in that RM5 zone, which is this pink townhouse residential zone. And because the small scale multi-unit provisions came through that allowed increased density, it sort of, until that OCP is ultimately updated, the conventional wisdom of greater density along the corridors doesn't necessarily hold true currently, where it's actually higher density, particularly with respect to lot coverage in sort of the yellow ground-oriented residential lots for now. So as I say, for 9601 Fifth Street here, we're dealing with slightly less lot coverage than on the other two applications. So here we'll have some streetscapes. So looking at the bottom first, this represents sort of this entire strip of Ocean Avenue that we're going to be looking at today. On the left-hand side here is 9601 Fifth Street, the subject of this first application. We have Fifth Street, the laneway. We have an existing development at 2424 Ocean and 2426 Ocean. I believe this was done circa 2008, 2010, if I'm not mistaken. 2-story, fairly modern attached townhouse style developments there. Here we have 4th Street and then the 2 subsequent applications, and then 2 newer single family homes across the laneway further down Ocean. So we have on the top left, this is the west elevation facing Fifth Street, so fairly narrow frontage along Fifth Street. This would be the frontage along the laneway. And then obviously we saw this on the cover photo. This is the frontage along Ocean Avenue. Just some existing pictures. I'm going to just jump out of this briefly and just pull up this street image. This is the Google Street View of the corner. One thing I really want to highlight here is this is Ocean Avenue heading down here, and then this is the corner heading down up Fifth Street. You can see the existing house really sits in a hole relative to the elevation of the street. We're in a really low area of just natural grades across the board here as far as relation to sea level. And you can see this house really, the grade sort of comes off of the boulevard here and then just dives down into the street. So one of the things we're trying to do, you can see it right here, it really comes in and then it dives down into a hole here. So one of the things we're aiming to do with this application is to raise the building up so that we have no depression, and the building main floor level is effectively level and slightly above the elevation of the sidewalk here on Ocean Avenue. And then tapers down and meets this grade here because it even falls off of Fifth Street right now. And I think, recognizing the need to do that, it just creates a really poor condition here of this sort of hole. It's not great for drainage. It's not great for landscaping. And obviously recognizing this lot is already vulnerable to sea level rise, we want to get the building up as high as possible. So in this case, we will be applying to remove this fir tree here. There's an arbutus tree just sort of around the corner here that you can sort of see in the background that is proposed for removal as well. And then these twin birch trees are removed as well, as the grade needs to be sort of filled in this location. We are able to retain this boulevard tree here, which is a really nice tree, so that won't be affected, and that's one that can be retained. But I think it's easy to see when you look at this image of how much grade differential there is here and how difficult it is to retain trees when you're talking about having to fill site grades. And obviously the footprint of this building is not using nearly the amount of footprint that we're proposing in a newer building that's maximizing the development footprint. I'm going to pop back to the PowerPoint now. And I think this was one specific reference point that Selena had brought up in her introduction, was that staff was pointing out that there is an existing pump system down here at the end of the laneway, and we have worked with our civil engineers to ensure that we are able to navigate in and out of the parking here without having to impact the pump system there. But you can see in this application with slightly less lot coverage, we don't have garages in this application where we do in the other two. So we have 3 surface parking stalls with access off the laneway. There was an existing drop curb here that had a driveway coming in off of Fifth Street. So that's removed as part of this application so that the only vehicular access is off of the laneway. We do introduce some pedestrian walkways coming into the boulevard, and I think this is a good image that does show how deep the boulevard is here relative to the front property line. There is quite a deep boulevard, and this is where this grade really dives off, and the boulevard is actually even low as well. So the idea would be we're going to hopefully create a fairly level grade across this boulevard. We have shown some landscaping as far as screening the parking area here, and certainly we're receptive to increasing that to something taller if that's favorable. Prepared to do some landscaping in that area. So going a little bit further than sort of a low hedge is not something we're opposed to in this case. And then just showing here as well, we do have a pedestrian walkway joining Fifth Street as well as the ocean frontage here. So I'm just going to go through a few more perspective views of the building again. This is that large tree I just showed on the street view, and I think this is probably understating how large that tree is. So a bit of a miss there on our part, but I think recognizing there is this big established tree here, and we're also proposing another tree to be planted there. Really, this sort of paints the picture too of the trees. So the actual street frontage and view of the building off of Fifth Street is somewhat screened by these one mature tree and in the future one larger tree. You can see here we do have the upper floor terracing back, so we do have a fairly symmetrical up-down layout other than these recessed balconies along Ocean, and then the upper story does terrace in on both street frontages. So this would be the Ocean and this would be the Fifth Street street frontage. This is the parking area on the laneway, and these are the storage units. So each unit, despite having not having a garage, it does have a good sized storage area for bikes and miscellaneous storage in addition to the surface parking. I'm not going to go into the layouts of the units. I think just understanding that the lower 2 are 2-story units and the upper is a single-story unit, I think suffices for the purposes of a forming character type assessment here today, but I'm happy to respond to any questions, or if you are interested, I can go into that. But I think at this point, I think I'll turn it over to the committee for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Go around the table. Maybe starting with Todd. Do you have any questions for Ryan?
Yeah, here, Todd.
Just stand by. We're going to set the mic down.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First question on the facing Ocean, where you've got steps going down from the walkway that goes across the front of the house to the driveway.
Yes.
Did you consider putting a ramp as opposed to stairs, or is there any reason that it's stairs instead of a ramp?
The issue there just is the amount of run in that location for a ramp wasn't going to work without obstructing the access to that entryway there. And also we're trying to keep sort of a thoroughfare in front of the parking there. So it was a little bit too tight for a ramp in that case.
Oh, okay. That's too bad, 'cause that would allow a lot of, access and help for, anybody in a wheelchair or whatnot. And in that same spot, there's no ramp. A hand railing probably wouldn't be a bad idea because I imagine the people who are going to buy these places are probably going to be retiring and a little bit older. Um, I want to say overall, I absolutely love the overall look and design of this.
Thank you.
I agree with staff on the Fifth Street. Like it looks like it looks like the side of a building would be facing an alley, albeit a very nice alley, I'm sure. As far as being right on Fifth Street, I feel like it's lacking a bit in sort of, visual appeal, being right on the main street, just that Fifth Street facing side. Um, on the lawn, the boulevard lawn there, that would be taken care of by the residents, correct? That wouldn't be town.
People have to maintain the boulevard in front of
Yeah.
their house, so it would be
Yeah.
the residents.
Yeah. So that being said, as you know, while each one has storage, um, as the lawn wraps around and is fairly sizable, I'm not sure whether the idea would be that each resident would have to have a lawnmower in order to take care of that. Um, it seems the kind of thing where incorporating into the building one of the robotic lawnmowers like they have at the airport, so that that lawn is just always trimmed and nice, and nobody's losing half their storage to a lawnmower with the amount of storage they have would be pretty great. Other than that, I really like it. The deck posts being black, I think longevity wise, I would assume those are going to be powder coated aluminum.
Yes.
The You're gonna, with the close proximity to the ocean and whatnot, if they were white, you're gonna get twice as long in between having to strip and recoat those because this is a pretty bad area for corrosion. Um, Other than that, yeah, I love it. It's a really great design.
If I can just make one comment, we actually did initially have some planting spilling into that boulevard area, but my understanding was that we're not technically allowed to plant anything on the boulevard, so that's why the boulevard is basically just shown as lawn area for now. So I actually think there's a huge opportunity here to do something really nice because it is such a huge boulevard and it's at such a great gateway. So that was a little bit out of our hands, but I think if there was any ability that we could look at doing something interesting or some sort of amenity here, it would be kind of neat.
Sorry, thank you, notice.
So I'm just gonna pass it over to Selena.
That was a request of our engineering department, but we could look into that further. There is something that could be planted on that boulevard area.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it would be up to the engineering department because it would be on the civil plans prepared by the engineer, not on these development permit drawings.
All right, Robert.
Okay, thanks. Oh, Ryan, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Just I'll from Todd's. I do agree with him on that view and the city's view on the look of Fifth Street. I'll just support that comment. My questions are just around this driveway again. The grade is going to be raised. Makes complete sense. So what's the elevation then from the lane up to the driveway?
So the driveway is actually down, and that's why those stairs are there along there. We can only,
the driveway goes down.
yeah, basically the driveway is down at lane grade, which is quite low. So that's
Yeah.
why we had to drop down with that set of stairs there.
Yeah.
Main floor and most of the site grade is up level with the sidewalk, but the laneway is low, and obviously we can only come off so steep off that laneway and meet
Yeah.
parking grades.
Okay, sorry, I see that now, the that grade there. So and so unit one parks and then walks around to the front entry in front of unit two. Is that correct? That's the design?
Yes.
Okay. And then this was probably more of a buyer's preference, but there's no separation between where they park. It's sort of a free for all, depending on who gets there first with the largest car.
The spaces would be like painted and assigned, so you would have one
They would.
dedicated space per unit.
Okay. Okay. Great. Um, the other question I had was just related to the corner right by the crosswalk. So the red, where that is
Um,
the Fifth Street side. Yeah, yeah. It's a great tree. It's huge. And so the other ones we take it out. There is actually, I think, even currently a bit of a blind spot on that north-south traffic that comes up because it comes through very quickly. So I think this is more of a comment for future that second the new tree being planted that it would need to be thinking about that blind spot coming into that crosswalk as you travel north around the traffic circle. As you know, traffic moves quickly through that section. So it'll look good at the start, but over time, it just to be mindful of because you can see the current dwelling there, it has kind of overgrown a bit. That is it for me. Thanks very much. I do like the overall architectural design. It feels like a little bit big to me for that footprint, but I'm not an expert in this area, so I'll just pass it over.
I was wondering on drawing A02, has your landscape architect looked at utilizing tree wells to save both the fir, the protected fir, and the arbutus? It would seem, I'm not quite sure about their condition, but it didn't indicate that they were of such that they were diseased. And so, is there a way of protecting either one or both of those trees? Although from the picture that you showed, it looks as almost as though the fir is bunched in with the arbutus. But from your drawings here, AO2, they seem to be quite well separated.
Yeah, the crown on that fir is pretty big, so that's going to be impacted even just with the main part of the building footprint, and then um, really trying to bring that grade up. We'd have to have
You would still bring the grade up. It would just be a matter of creating a tree well.
So there would be a depression right around the
Right around the tree, yes. So that you don't overload the soil onto the main root structure, but you would ultimately at the extent of the drip line or close to the end of the drip line, you would do root pruning of the fir tree and start in with your foundations for the building. It's quite a significant tree, and I'm just wondering if your arborist and your landscape architect have collaborated on trying to determine if there is a way of saving that tree, the fir tree specific.
the fir tree specifically has been the one that engineering has been talking about as far as that being the biggest hurdle for sightlines around that intersection. So there wasn't a lot of fight to hold onto that one from that standpoint, recognizing it's also a huge tree that's going to be too close to the building. So the thought was that this was an opportunity to replant a couple of nice trees that were a little bit more strategically located and would allow this grade to be leveled out and not require a whole bunch of retaining walls, which are then going to be built on the boulevard and on private property, and it becomes really complicated and well-meaning. I understand, but I don't think it's practical in this case.
Okay, and both is the existing boulevard tree to be removed? Is that the fir tree, and then the other one is just at the property line? Is that the arbutus? Just at the apex of the property line on as it circles?
The fur is in the biggest, like the bottom corner, so to speak.
Ah, okay.
And then
Thank you.
the other one is the like further north is the twin birch trees.
Okay, I wasn't considering the birch trees. I was considering the arbutus and the fir, but as to whether one or the other might be able to be retained. Okay, we'll move on. Question in regard to screening of the parking lots area. Does any sort of a pergola or that type of covering of that area is that also included as as site coverage, or could that type of screening be provided since it is looking down from Ocean Avenue onto the parking area, and it possibly would give that area a little bit more architectural um, improvement over just a blank parking area.
Our initial inclination to go with low landscaping here is it does sort of artificially increase the effective usable area of that parking, whereas putting in a fence or some sort of hard screening really does sort of constrain any doors from opening to really needing all of that space. So that's where initially we had proposed fairly low-lying landscaping, recognizing, we're doing the best we can to give as much space to the parking, but the more space we have, the better.
But these are regular size parking spots that you've indicated here. They're not small car, are they? What I'm suggesting is sort of up to the end of Unit 3 storage, or just beyond, with an extension of pergola type structure, and that could be aluminum to be able to span further. It's not going to be supporting much weight other than itself, dead weight. So I'll just throw that out there. The one question was the location of the heat pumps and their enclosure. It seems that is not as sort of they're sort of looked upon as add-ons. Had you considered, and is it allowable to have extensions of like roof sections in that throughout that area to locate the heat pumps onto, and then that way that facade against 9609 Fifth Street is a very high blank wall with windows extending out overlooking. And so if you were to locate an eyebrow window out, or eyebrow roof structure beyond that wall to locate the three heat pumps onto, then you could still create those being obscured, but it would also break up that wall. Have you considered that?
No.
Have you considered placing the heat pumps onto the roof like any other commercial structure?
Certainly, but it becomes really hard to access for any of the service crews for the lower two units. To have to get up on the roof of a three-story building is not easy, and there's no provision to get through the building. You'd have to be trying to get access through somebody else's window, which is the top floor unit, right? It's just not.
The unit 3 foyer and stairwell, that's part of the unit. There's no
common space at all in the building.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Those are my own. Oh, the other question was, I assume that the height, you are at the actual limit of the height for the zone, the roof height.
Very close, yes.
Okay. Are they 9-foot ceilings for each floor?
Correct.
Is there any way of robbing some ceiling height and creating a different roof profile? Like, I think that what is occurring is with the creation of 3 stories, is that every one of these small units, small multifamily units, is turning into a sort of a major, block type structure, and without roof cant or interest in roof structure. And I'm just wondering if there is an ability to cant the roof, or or create different levels in the roof, like the townhouse design at 90 20 24 24 and 24 26 Ocean Boulevard.
I mean, specific to height, I think currently the market is the expectation in any unit now that is constructed is a 9-foot ceiling is pretty much the minimum. There is an opportunity if you had a pitched roof to go taller with this building, but the desired aesthetic is this flat roof with big overhangs that are clean and projecting out in this case. So that this is the desired aesthetic. So I mean, there is opportunities to do other things, but this is the direction that is desired in this.
Well, that is a benefit for those large overhangs and the step back of the third story. That is a benefit. That's something that I appreciate. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Going to Dennis.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, start off by saying that I also agree with the staff comments about the need to pay a little bit more attention to the improvements to the Fifth Street elevation. I would also hope that the applicant would be able to work with engineering regarding the Ocean Boulevard landscaping in the right of way, because there's an opportunity there to pull through the same treatment that's in front of the adjacent townhouses. It's a fairly high profile corner lot, so I think just putting lawn out there, it needs something a little bit better than that. The other questions I had was sheet A 2.2. There's a lot of changes between, as you pointed out in your presentation, Ryan, between existing and finished grade. Can you just clarify me, just from being on site? I'm assuming there's going to be a retaining wall on the north property line. Is that correct?
Sorry, did you say the north property line?
Correct.
No.
So it will meet the grade of the adjacent property? The
Correct.
finished grade will meet the, oh, okay. All right. The other question I had was regarding sheet A 1.1, where you've got the entries to the units.
Okay.
So the concern I have there is particularly for the entry to Unit 3, for deliveries, first responders, anybody trying to find those doors. And I would suggest maybe you look at some directional signage for anybody coming to this property, just to help them find their way. And then a question to Selena. Unit 1 entry is part of improving that elevation. Under the zoning regs, could they do a pergola entry there?
There are setback requirements for pergolas.
Right. So it's doubtful they would be able to meet the setbacks with a pergola at unit 1. Okay. And yeah, right. I would suggest that maybe something like a pergola entry at unit 1, if it doesn't mean zoning variances, might be something you want to look into. The other question I had was actually for Selena. So this will result in orphaning of the lot to the north. So is that site still able to be developed? Okay. Okay, I think that's all my questions and comments. Thank you.
All right, we'll pass it down to David.
I'll just make one more comment while you're passing along there. Originally, our proposal had desired to retain the driveway off of 5th Street for that unit 1 so that they didn't have to walk all the way from the laneway side of the building to that front entry, but engineering said that we had to remove that driveway. We couldn't keep it, which was unfortunate for the flow and access in this case, but that's where we're at.
Hello, Ryan. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
I certainly sympathize with the challenges of this site, in particular location and so forth, and understand the response is quite positive compared to that. I do agree, as the others have said, with the staff issues. I'd like to emphasize the 5th Street facade as well as the north. On all the projects, the 3 that we're looking at, there's certain articulation vertically there that tends to identify separations between the units themselves. And I find on this one in particular, the ocean frontage on the lower level might benefit from a thinking of the separation between the 2 units, just to give them a little bit better identity. The other comment with respect to identity, and obviously I understand the constraints that exist, but to have the penthouse access off the parking lot in a really remote and dark, when you look at the colors and so forth, isn't good from a marketing perspective, but I find it would be a little unnerving maybe for tenants, and particular if it's an older person or people that need some special assistance and so forth to find their way through there. And with the stair and so forth, it just adds to that. You tend to think that they now have to come in specifically from the parking lot side. So just a comment, I think it might serve better from a articulation perspective and identity perspective. As well, off of the parking lot, is there allowances for EV plugins and electrical outlets and things like that? The other units speak to that.
I don't specifically believe they're required in this case.
So there would be no consideration for that.
That may be something that is considered, but at this point, I don't believe it's something that is required and obviously challenging in a standalone parking type situation.
Yeah, I was thinking of whether the plugins actually provided, but that there is within the electrical installation allowances to allow the tenant to hook it up at reasonably easy costs and effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that is being considered.
I just wanted to make the note that housing, the EV ready parking requirements are not applicable.
Yeah, I was thinking more of an allowance from a panel perspective.
Okay.
That would allow a dedicated service in addition, so it wasn't so tight that it couldn't be done by the tenant.
For
And
sure.
it was commented on, I think, in one of the other submissions I've seen. So just a comment. Is there any consideration for the possibility for adaptable unit in this development?
Well, effectively, the limitation from the parking area, I mean, if you parked along the ocean, and you would have barrier-free access to unit 1 and unit 2, and certainly unit 3 is barrier-free in that sense. So with dealing with some of the site constraints and the grading challenges, we're sort of doing the best we can in that sense. Obviously, we're mindful that that is a major market demand item in Sydney. So, in this case, that's where these units do have effectively, primary bedroom on the main floor for units 1 and 2, and then obviously the elevator access to unit 3 does tick that box for the most part. Not going to specific like adaptability, like full barrier free metrics in every instance, but very close.
Yeah, I was thinking more of the internal layout of the units, that there would be one that could potentially be modified by the tenant or the owner rather, to allow it to be adapted. I didn't necessarily see that in some of the layouts of washrooms, for instance, with the turning radius of wheelchairs and things like that. So it's just a question to see if that was considered in any of the units.
It's not in the sense that, if these are being built for sale, they're being built with this as the proposed. I'm sure if somebody came in and wanted to buy these while it was under construction, there'd be an opportunity to perhaps customize and build to suit. But as of now, that's not the target. And mainly it's a space constraint thing in units like this.
Okay. And the last comment I had was just as a follow-up to other comments on the heat pump. Wherever the heat pumps end up being, and even with the enclosure that's intended to attenuate some of the sound, again, a comment, there's various degrees of attenuation and quality actually that are inherent in the heat pumps that are out in the marketplace. And I suggest in this location for all of the units that a higher end, quieter unit be considered.
I think it's worth noting too, in all of these applications, and particularly this one, we have effectively frontage on 3 streets. I mean, 2 streets and a laneway. So the north elevation here is 3 stories stacked. We have, it's effectively the side of the building where we're not expecting to look, in the long run, that's probably going to be opposed by another 3-story building eventually. And that's where, of the 4 facades of the building, that's going to be the one that sort of becomes the most utilitarian and has, the most abrupt massing because it's not facing a street.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's everything I had.
Hey, Ryan, you can hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
All right. First question just regards the high voltage power lines that are on Ocean there. What's the clearance between the edge of the balcony and that high voltage line? You got the 3-phase there.
Yeah, I mean, at no location is it any closer than like 4 meters, I believe.
All right. And okay, thank you. And maybe I missed this. Are these units being looked at as being held on to as rentals, or are they being sold as condos?
There'll be strata units for sale.
Strata units. Okay, all right. And bicycle parking, is that going to be in the storage lockers?
That's the intent, yes.
Yeah. So there's no external storage of bicycles on site.
No.
No. Okay. All right. I mean, in general, I like it. I would say that you had commented to Todd's question about having a ramp where those stairs are on the southeast corner there. Um, I guess if you were to move Unit 2 entry kind of to the other side of Unit 2, you could accommodate some sort of a ramp there, but yeah, it's just a comment. Yeah, no, in general, I like what you've done there. I think it looks okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So, yeah, I guess at this stage of the meeting, we will go into deliberations about what we find are the recommendations from this committee to council.
Did you want Selena to read out the staff report recommendation, or we've all got it in the packages?
Yes, please. That would be lovely.
So the recommendation is that development permit application number DP 100854 to permit the form and character of a 3-unit residential development for the property at 9601 5th Street be approved, subject to the condition that the property owner shall, prior to the issuance of building permit, 1. Address design guideline number 25347, screening for parking, and 25313 to 15, orient west facade to fronting street, and 25342, consistent material treatments and visual interest on fronting streets to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services. And 2, pay to the town a deposit in the amount of 115% of the estimated cost to complete the hard and soft landscaping for the development.
We have a neighbor.
I'd like to make an amendment. Yep. Oh, you're on the okay.
And then we can do
Oh, you want to do it that way? Okay. I will second it then.
okay. Discussion on this.
So I'd just like to add to number 1, 25.3.35, visibility of entrances.
I'll second that.
Number
25.3.35.
For staff's clarity, could you elaborate on what it is about that guideline that you would be looking for better compliance with?
So as I mentioned in my comments, directional signage, instructing people to where they can find the units, in particular number 3. As I said, my concern is deliveries, first responders, that sort of thing. And in particular, back to the unit 1 that faces onto 5th Street, whether that entrance can be accentuated through the use of something like a pergola, but that would be contingent on zoning regulations.
I'd just like to make a discussion then on that position, and that I support that. Walk
highlighted with either color or light. Those presently in a dark alcoves, and so that through color you can accentuate those alcoves to be an obvious entry, or you can place large scale numbers as to the address of that entry, and that by having the walkway and potentially walkway lighting, then that can direct people direct to those entry places, especially to the entry of the rear number 3, which is the penthouse unit. You can highlight the wall of the storage room to be to direct people towards that entry, and then the walkway can be directed right to that rear entry as well. So everything would come off of either Fifth or Orchard Road. So it would get trying to make it very obvious about those entries.
Okay, so this kind of procedure, since we have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded for discussion, the main motion would have to be defeated. Or
vote on the amendment.
No, you vote on the amendment.
Vote on the amendment.
And then vote on the
Right
main.
now, you're discussing the amendment that has been proposed by mover and seconder.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I'd like to call a question on the amendment to the motion. All those in favor? Okay. That's everyone. None opposed? Seeing none? Okay, that, so now that passes. So now the new main motion would read, address design guideline 25.3.47, screening for parking 25.3.13 through 15, west facade to fronting street, and 25.3.42, consistent material treatments and visual interest on fronting streets to the and 25.3.35 visibility of interest of entrances to the satisfaction of the director of development services, and 2, pay to the town a deposit the amount 115% estimated costs to complete the hard and soft landscaping for the development. Okay. So is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none.
May I add an amendment?
Oh, you would like to add another amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
That the design meet guideline 25.3.8, provide pedestrian pathways on site to connect main building entrances to public sidewalks and open spaces, adjacent streets, visitor parking area. 25.3.8.
0.8.
And from the site to adjacent pedestrian trail and cycling networks.
We have a seconder for that. Seeing none. That doesn't.
I'm just confused as to how it doesn't.
Well, right now we're suggesting that they be, right now pathways don't come directly to the entries, and so we've passed an amendment that highlights the need to identify those entries.
Oh, so the
25.3.8.
instead of having a single one, it has an
Yeah.
individual one.
which is part of highlighting those entries.
So I just thought that it would
Sure. I will
be
report that.
belts and suspenders. Is there any discussion on that?
Realistically, I think just that one there needs to be offset to there. And then that one would go to there and this one would go to there.
Yeah, the one off of Fifth Street would stay as the
Already
leading to Unit 1. The existing one that they've got, just if they would just move it over to the entrance of Unit 2, that would be sufficient.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how is that covered in the current mental use status?
Pardon?
How is that not already covered?
Well, it wasn't specifically.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't
Except it-
specifically listed.
Otherwise, ask for the description to the satisfaction. That is there.
So unless the Director of Development Services specifically requests it, then
Okay.
it would not necessarily be asked for. Correct?
Yeah, if APC feels strongly that the pedestrian pathway locations need to be improved, then there should be a specific recommendation about that. That isn't automatically construed as visibility of entrances.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Yeah, David?
Just a clarification of I'll say our that clarification as to our mandate and how to articulate what we're after here. Rather than give specific design solutions, are we to provide an intent that incorporates the possibility of that solution? In other words, we're talking about the better articulation and identity of the entrances and their connection to the circulation paths and the street frontage. Through light has been mentioned, side lights potentially to the doors. There's a myriad of possibilities that would do that. If we do something, it's a question. If we do specific design solutions, is that less than what we really want? Or do we want to give the latitude for the town and the designers to look at everything possible and come up with a better alternative? I'm not sure, just asking the question because we're being more specific here than maybe we want to be.
That's a good point.
Please advocate for us to keep the driveway on Fifth Street.
That's actually not a bad idea either. Yeah, no. My understanding is that this committee is supposed to be a forum for giving community involvement that is outside of council back to the developer, and so we don't necessarily have to give direct solutions to issues that we see with the development. We can just say in our record of decision that we would recommend to council that council tell the developer to improve entry visibility or some such things. We don't have to come up with specific solutions. Allison?
Sure, thank you. From like a staff liaison position, the purpose of these recommendations about addressing design guidelines is to give general direction about the applicant could do better in addressing this guideline here, and then it's between staff and the applicant in terms of how to fix that, how to better improve the design to get that. So when I asked Mr. Carlson about what's the intent behind this additional recommendation, it was see what parts of the visibility at entrances he felt was not quite there. So to give us some ideas when discussing it with the applicant, but that doesn't mean we are going to be able to achieve every single thing that APC wants.
Yeah.
So something as specific as moving an existing pathway east by X number of meters may or may not be able to be achieved based on grades, based on landscaping, based on civil design, who knows what else. But there may be a way to shift it slightly. So if APC wanted a specific design change, then that would be best done as a specific recommendation to council. And maybe Councillor Duck wants to comment on that too, in terms of how council receives APC's recommendations.
So right now that we have a staff recommendation before you, which is the same that would come to council, and you've added one amendment to it, 25.3.35. So that those are all structures within the OCP that give direction to the design. And as staff have indicated, that's what they'll go back and work with the developer and proponent on. But to get down into specifics, you can't give that kind of direction to the proponent because they have to meet within the guidelines, and the guidelines are broader than you can be specific. So as Allison's presented, if you want to have a specific design put in there, then you have to make that recommendation. Whether that goes through council, it has to be defensible, and we'll look for a report on that as to why it has to be there over and above the OCP guidelines, because the OCP guidelines are specific enough that we don't want to get outside of that realm.
So, as a quick question, we could put a motion forward to, or to a recommendation that town do something to make it possible to allow for a ramp in allowing setback space and whatnot.
Well, I think right now APC is discussing the amendment motion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
just
a
as a
separate point.
sideline.
Yeah, APC could make a separate recommendation for number 1 and 2 in the report.
Yeah.
And make a specific suggestion to council about the design. But that, I think right now it's the motion on the floor is this proposed amendment.
The proposed amendment's not specific. It's just confirming the issue 2538 hasn't really been met by the design now. So, and confirming that that should be another enhancement to the design.
That also be, like you said, added as a separate recommendation and not part of this.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a specific amendment to the motion. Yeah, it can be in the record of decision. Yeah. Is there, Robert or David, do you have anything?
No,
On that specific.
No, I mean, I appreciate this. I think that we're trying to troubleshoot some issues that have some design challenges with the footprint, the entranceway. And I don't know how to solve that. So I kind of look for staff and developer to take this from an intent standpoint that we want to maximize what's best for safety, best for the buyers. But I think the buyers are going to have some preferences. They like this structure or not. To me, I don't know how we can out-design this. I think there's some flaws the way it's set up, but maybe someone will like it this way. But I do like the intent of having safety and visibility emphasized. So I'll support the amendment because I think it's the right intent. But I think ultimately we won't be able to retrofit this perfectly.
Okay. David? Everything?
No, I think that giving an overview comment is appropriate and leading in the direction of consideration. Really, having been in situations similarly myself, I think the designers in the town and their professionals can look at that, take into account our comments, and come up with the best compromise situation, I imagine.
Okay. All right.
Just if I could interject, just to be clear, current recommendation is what's written on the page plus an amendment adding 25.335. Just so everybody's on the same page.
And everybody approved that one. So
Correct.
now we've got another amendment on the table, on the floor that's been moved and seconded to add this 25.3.8.
Right, which you can vote on.
That's
Right.
That
Okay,
needs to
but
be
we
voted
haven't
on.
actually voted on entire.
No, you're on 25.38.
Making another amendment.
Second Amendment, yes. All right. I don't really have anything to say to that other than Yeah, I think it would be fine to do as a, I think addressing this would be fine to do as just a, in addressing it in the record of decision, but yeah, it's fine. Um, all those in favor of the amendment? And against? Okay, 3-2. Motion still passes.
Are you voting opposed or in favor?
I was voting opposed.
Sure.
So 3-2. So myself and David are voting against it, but the motion passes. Okay, so now the main motion is that the development permit application DP 100854 permit form and character of a 3-unit residential development on the property at 9601 5th Street be approved, subject to the condition that the property owner shall, prior to the issuing of the building permit, 1, address design guideline 25.3.47, 25.3.13 through 15, and 25.3.42, and 25.3.35, and 25.3.38 to the satisfaction of Director of Development Services, and pay to the town a deposit in the amount of 115% of the estimated cost to complete the hard and soft landscaping for the development. Any further discussion to that? No. All those in favor? And none, any opposed? None. Okay, that motion passes. And so now we would move on to the record of decision.
Can I make a comment on the record of decision for consideration of other members?
Absolutely.
And it's in there's no. Bring the mic over.
Oh yeah.
There is no overall design guidelines on the heat pump locations, but the heat pump installations as they are currently designed seem to be add-ons to a facade. They may reduce the noise, but they are not cohesive to the architecture of that facade. And so I would suggest that there be some alternate design to address those heat pump placements. How that occurs, that's up to the design.
If they were raised, there would be room for a sidewalk that goes down the whole back of the building.
I don't know why they're not even placed on grade other than possibly because of flood levels or something, but they've been raised up onto the wall structure, all three of them. The third one of the three could be placed on the roof of unit 3, which would be accessible to from unit 3. The other two could be at grade, or so that they are not interrupting the facade of that building.
Just record decision. I mean, definitely we did bring up plate screening of heat pumps during the question period to Ryan. So yeah, that was talking.
Design of the heat pump installation is poorly thought out.
Okay.
Would that be the statement for the record of decision then? Kind of a summary statement about the location of the heat pumps? Yeah. Did you catch that?
Could be, maybe not.
No. Okay. They're talking about the record of decision.
All right. So maybe for the record of decision, overall, I think overall, the committee liked the design that was brought forward. For this location period. But had the following, or however, had the following recommendations that staff and the proponent work on. Number one, heat pump location and screening.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I also
noise abatement. It is
The heat pumps.
heat pump location, noise abatement, and screening.
I think David pointed out the concern about the noise.
Yeah, you did. And then there was talk about a pergola for the, or more screening for the parking. And you don't have to write this down, but whether that's done with different landscaping material or some sort of a structure that would be amenable to the proponent. Yeah. And then the third thing was the adaptability of the units. Is that all right with everyone? Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Oh, that's part of the adaptability.
Yeah, you could say adaptability of the units slash a ramp, yeah, site access on ramp on the southeast corner. Because that's the only set of stairs really that's between the parking area and the unit 1 and 2 entries. Yeah. All right. All right. And then, so we're happy with this record of decision for this? Seeing no comments. Okay, 2 thumbs up there. Awesome. All right, let's move on to 9601. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9601 4th Street.
Bear with me. I'm just going to share my screen again.
Okay. Maybe while you're doing that, we'll just get Selena to quickly give us a run through on this.
Okay.
Ryan, would you mind muting your microphone? Well, we're getting some feedback here when we're speaking. I think it's picking up on your speakers hearing our sound. So if you could mute yourself while people here are talking, that might help.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Okay, so 9601 4th Street is there's a proposed 3-unit, 3-story residential development at this property. It's located at the corner of Ocean Avenue and 4th Street. 2 dwellings are proposed to front Ocean Avenue on the 1st and 2nd story, with a 3rd dwelling unit accessed from 4th Street, and primarily on the 3rd floor with some living space on the 2nd floor. The building's modern architectural style with a flat roof, with shiplap siding and stucco on the facades. One off-street parking space for each dwelling unit is accommodated within garages for each unit accessed off of 4th Street. The application generally complies with the objectives of the official community plan. Again, OCPs are not required to be updated to comply with small-scale multi-unit requirements, so there are some inconsistencies in that respect. The development is in full conformance with the zoning bylaw. In terms of the off-street parking requirements, again, as I mentioned, parking is provided with a single car garage for each unit. There will be space in front of 2 of the garages for an additional in tandem vehicle access or vehicle parking space in the driveway area. Looking over at the design guidelines, overall staff are of the opinion that the proposed development is generally consistent with the applicable design guidelines. The property is situated uniquely in this neighborhood, with it being located on a corner lot with 2 frontages on Ocean Avenue and 4th Street, but no vehicular connection between the 2 streets and no laneway access. The design of the building wraps around the building, so it maintains visual interests along 4th Street while keeping Ocean Avenue the main frontage and more scaled to the pedestrian. Overall, staff are of the opinion that the proposed development meets the guidelines. There are some guidelines highlighted in the staff report. I'll run that back to you, Eric.
Anyone give us a quick run through?
Sure, thank you.
I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, can everybody see my screen now?
I can, yeah.
All right, not to confuse anyone, but we're moving from 9601 5th Street to 9601 4th Street. So here we go. So again, just a quick summary, corner of 4th and Ocean with a laneway here. So basically frontage on 4th and Ocean in this case. First image here would be the Ocean frontage. In this case, again, the lower 2 units are 2-story units and then a penthouse unit up top. 2 of the units have their front doors facing the Ocean frontage. Slightly larger properties here versus the last application we reviewed, and again, referencing the R1 zone here that does permit more lot coverage in this case. The above image would be the frontage along 4th Street, and you can see we have 3 garages, 1 for each unit. This would be the entire frontage sort of along Ocean again, so this is sort of what it currently is in the context of, and the one below sort of shows the 2 proposed buildings side by side. So this is the proposed or the current building next door to what exists on Ocean, and obviously this is what we're being proposed down here. So it's a bit of a multiple view here. And then there's that building we just discussed on 5th Street. So this is the entire frontage here along Ocean. You can see here again how much 4th Street and that the grades along the street here drop below that Ocean frontage. So you will come down the end of 4th and then climb up to that street grade here. And that's sort of what you're seeing here as well. So again, a very low spot relative to forecasted sea level rise. Looking at, sorry, I'm just going to go back 1 image. So in this case, we have 3 garages, all in the back, facing 4th Street. There's enough room for 2 of the units to have parking outside of the garage. It's very, very close, even for this back unit to be able to park here because they're sort of the edge of the pavement right now. So there's probably room to park there, even though it's sort of half on, half off. The access to the rear unit, we do have a ramp in this case going from this back area up into the rear entry to unit 3, which goes up to the penthouse there. And then internal access through the garages for units 1 and 2. So much less walking around the building in this case because of the fact we had additional lot size and additional footprint to be able to have garages in this case. Otherwise, the general massing is similar in both units, or sorry, in this building as to the last, where stacked 2-story units on the lower with the second floor rebated back to get these sort of covered balconies in the front. And then the upper story is stepped quite back to allow for a large south-facing deck with some cover for the upper unit. So terrace is nicely back. There's that sort of upper story setback off of Ocean Avenue here. So 2 stories up, big setback. Obviously, the building's quite long relative to 4th Street, but we've stepped it back both on the 3rd story and these garage faces to try and give the building a little bit of articulation and a little bit of variation in that massing facing the 4th Street frontage, because in this case, obviously, it's a more prominent street frontage versus a conventional laneway, but functions the same as the next project we'll look at that does have laneway access. So in this case, the layouts are slightly different in the sense of sort of like just look at some walkways here. So again, there's garage and then the ramp access up into the unit 3 entry. And then we do have a pathway that comes all the way from that parking area around to the front entry of unit 1 and 2, but their day-to-day access is likely from the garage through kind of a mudroom entrance into the units. And just some perspective views of that building massing, looking at the setback off of Ocean here, the west perspective along 4th Street, sort of a northwest look back at the ramp up and the entrance to that penthouse unit along the north side from their garage. Again, look at sort of the southeast view along Ocean and the southwest view along Ocean as well. In this case, the developer decided they wanted to do a bit of an inverted living setup for these lower floor units. So you do come in here and you have spare bedrooms, a bathroom, a mud room, and a laundry room on the lower floor with stairs up, and all primary living is on the second floor. In this case, the view from the lower floor looks straight into the fence and the screening for the ferry terminal. So being able to create this inverted living setup means that from all the primary living space and from the south-facing balconies here, you do get a view out to the ocean above the facilities at the ferry terminal across the street. So that's the only difference in this case. And then obviously the upper floor unit is single level living with all primary living facing south, and they get a really nice sized roof deck amenity space up there. And you can see here some jog that we did in the building just to offset that stacked massing off of 4th Street. And here we do have, again, there's the ramp, the entry, the elevator, and then a bit of a larger foyer in this case leading up to, in this unit, they do have an actual some space, a flex room office off the second floor. So when you do go up the staircase to this penthouse unit, you can get off at the second floor, so to speak, and have a room on that floor with elevator access obviously there as well. So that's the difference in this case, but otherwise a very complementary massing and architectural style and overall palette and color scheme is very complementary to that of 5th Street and the next project that we'll look at on Ocean as well. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We'll pass the mic around. We'll start off with Todd.
All right. first off, on the second floor, where you have to walk through the bathroom to the walk-in closet, that seems really terrible when there could be a door directly to the walk-in closet. Um, for all sorts of reasons. Um, Another question on the west side, where it has the sort of inset section. I was wondering why that wouldn't be a balcony off of the second floor bedrooms. Um, on the top floor, I had a question. Are you able to hear me?
You're muted there,
You're
right?
muted.
Sorry, I thought you had said the second floor, but if you're referencing the third floor, yeah.
Oh no, first I don't know if you heard what I said before. I was first back to the beginning. Did you hear what I mentioned about the
Yeah,
walking?
I heard everything. I was just muted.
Oh, okay. On the west side, where it's got the like it's inset and there's side. Um, yeah, it's inset. Is there any reason why that couldn't be a balcony with like sliding doors?
In that case, a balcony is not permitted to project into the setback there, and it's not really deep enough to be a functional balcony and would add a ton of cost for a fairly marginal amenity.
Fair enough. Um, Next question. Okay, so on the third floor, it looks like you've got it sloping from the center towards the outsides. I see a parapet drain on each front corner. Is there also drains back towards the structure part, or how many drains are up in that rooftop, that upper third floor patio?
The third floor patio,
Yeah,
there would probably be at least two in that case.
yeah, I see. So I see two there. Then where the sliding doors to access that patio are,
Mhm.
is there a threshold there, or is it smooth right through? Like, how are the doors designed there?
There will be a little bit of a threshold. Our experience in these stacked units is that we do need some buildup on top of the roof deck in order to obviously provide slope for drainage, but also if we get too narrow, then meeting our sound transmission gets really challenging between units. So
Yeah,
um, achieving a really zero threshold door detail is really challenging based on sort of the conventional floor depth that we're going to be dealing with in this case. So there will be a small threshold there.
I'll basically let you know where my thought process is coming from. In this particular area, being so close to the ocean, also not having anything else blocking from like the ferry terminal, the park, and whatnot. When it snows, you get a tremendous amount of snow that's blowing off the ocean, and everything on the waterfront there tends to catch a bit extra. So without having, it's got a bit of projection over the roof, but when it snows, the way it's going to blow in there with it being south facing, you're going to get a snowdrift sort of up against those doors, and that whole upper deck is sort of going to catch snow like a big pocket. Then when it rains, it's going to just turn into a big block of slush. Um, and Drainage wise, that is something that's going to, it could probably use some extra drains up there, and a sizable thresholds to keep it from flooding inside. Um, I experienced this on my penthouse downtown, and I used to live on Frost, sort of just down the road from this. And we got, you would get a lot of drifting of the snow. Um, if the roof was to be carried forward, and if glass paneling was to be dropped down on the sides, it would help to mitigate that. Um, Another option is, which I've seen in one other place. I'm not sure how they did it, but they essentially heated it. So much like in Ontario and Alberta, a lot of the wealthier upscale developments and whatnot, they'll actually heat the driveways so that so that snow can't even accumulate, it just melts and drains away. But up on that upper floor, that would definitely be a concern that it's going to catch snow, and then right after it snows, we get rain, and you're just going to have this big block of slush that's going to want to, plugs up the drains, and then it just sits, and it would definitely flood that top floor. I'll just leave that with you. The next question on the parking, there's a post in between the two parking spots. If
Yes.
People are definitely going to hit that, and I would assume it's fairly structural.
Yes.
So probably doing some sort of structural steel to eliminate it. That having owned body shops, people just love driving into those posts. And if it's super structural, it has to be, if there's going to be a post, it has to be so immovable that it would probably become too large. So it'd probably be easier to add a beam and move posts to the outside because that will get hit. And the next question, when we're looking at the front of the building, we see the row of garbage cans. Is that just to demonstrate where the garbage cans will be on garbage day, or is that where they're intending to live? Because it looks like there's also cans pictured in the garages.
I actually believe that was just simulated to show where collection areas are. It was a requirement to show where that would be.
Oh, okay.
So
But then
it's not where they
they
live,
would,
it's where they're placed for collection. There's some specifics on where.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
fair enough. I thought that would be a terrible place to keep them, but if that's just where you put them on garbage day, then that probably works.
It's where the 3D modeling probably should have hid those for the money shot rendering, but here we are.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, they'll blow away in the wind. Actually, that being said, um, if if it's possible to have some sort of a fence or something behind where they are, it can get pretty windy there, and having something for them to be set against would would probably keep a lot of garbage off the street. Yeah, those are my only comments. Other than that, I think it's quite good.
Mr. Robert. Thanks. It's funny, I had the exact same question about those post garbage recycling bins. So good to hear that. I like this overall go over concept. I think this is a nice look for Ocean Avenue. My question really is, I just want to make a couple clarifications. One is the driveway to the garages. Is that about a meter? I'm trying to get a sense how much lower that is from the elevations can be raised to be equal at Ocean Avenue. I'm looking at the designs and I'm not exactly sure if it's between a meter, because how much lower that is from Ocean Avenue.
So if you do look at a 0.1, you can
Yep.
see in the top image, you can see the words gutter line,
Yep.
and some spot elevations there, 2.8, 2.8, 2.7 along the sidewalk
Okay.
there.
Yep.
And then if you follow down the pink line sort of towards the garages, you can see the grade drops down 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, sort of along there. So there is over a 0.7 meter drop in the worst case, I think.
Yeah, okay, that's about what I thought it was. Thanks for that clarification. I just want to make sure I was reading those properly. So,
And I just want to understand, and this would be helpful to me for, I think, for the next property and maybe for future properties. So this may be more to staff, but the on the discussion around the town's interim flood construction policy, you go to an engineer's report. So I'm summarizing what I think I understand this to be. And then the engineer's report assesses the proposed elevations for the development, and then it states that the construction is safe for uses as per the legislation. And then a covenant is required to be registered on title. And then that notifies the future owners of the flood risk. Is that the, so is it basically like a buyer beware? After we've done our best to assess this, but you still need to be aware of it. Is that what this is trying to say?
Town does have an interim flood construction level policy, so anything built for habitation below 5 meters geodetic elevation does require an assessment on a site-to-site basis. So the report will outline that site-specific elevation. So as part of the recommendations in these reports, they do typically require that Section 219 flood hazard covenant. But in terms of the requirements, it does sort of alert the buyer to be aware of the flood risk. Alison, would you like to speak more to that?
Yeah, sure. The covenant, the wording of it starts out by saying that there's this identified hazard on the property, this risk of flooding, and that anything built here has to be built in compliance with the engineer's report. So the covenant isn't just a buyer beware, heads up, future owners, there's this flood risk. It's also requiring the current owner to build in accordance with the engineer's report in terms of the minimum floor elevation. And is it a floor on a crawl space? Is it a solid slab on grade? They have to build in accordance with that engineer's report.
And that meets all, this property meets all.
Does.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. No more questions, thanks. All right. So maybe further to that questions, then the elevations of the heat pumps again being placed up on the upper level of the walls, is that to do with the engineer's report, or can they be at grade in this instance?
Is that a question to Ryan?
I thought it was to you. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure if that was the direct result of the location for the heat pumps, but typically in these reports, they do mention mechanical and electrical equipment being located above that flood construction level. So it could well be part of the case, but I might leave that to Ryan to answer.
Yeah, in this case, they can't go right on the ground because of the recommendations where all mechanical equipment needs to be above flood construction level. There's also challenges with running refrigerant lines for a heat pump unit where you're dealing with penetrations through fire separations and things like that. So raising the equipment up where it can go directly into the unit is relevant. The alternative is, running refrigerant lines on the outside of the building with ugly conduits and things like that. So, and just the efficiencies of running less distance on those is ideal. So,
Okay.
and again, same situation here, like the inclination of putting mechanical equipment on a rooftop is good in buildings where there's common access to the roof.
Yes. Is there any ability to place those on the existing facade on 4th Street where there's the eyebrow roof that extends over the parking areas?
It's possible, but again, they're far more visible facing a street than down a side property line that's going to likely see another large or similar massing of a building opposing it. And at that point, it's going to be almost invisible from sight. So favoring mounting equipment on these elevations that aren't likely to have long-term visibility is the priority in this case.
Okay, thank you. My one comment again is access to unit number 3, the penthouse, and just that it is at the rear. This goes and that it's not very defined. It's difficult to identify from the street. And again, if there's some improvement to the identification of that entry and lighting to that entry, that would be a big benefit. The access from Ocean Boulevard to the front 2 units, that's excellent. Hopefully you could undertake something in the same fashion from 4th Street to unit number 3.
Yeah, I don't think in any instance is there any thought to not having proper wayfinding here. It's just not been provided at this time. So,
okay, thank you.
All right, pass it over to I think in general the response, design response to the site constraints in that is very good on the site. Some quick comments on I think it's the east elevation facade with the expanse of, I'll say, white stucco, I imagine. It might be worth considering breaking that large mass up a bit from a visual of the adjacent properties and coming along Ocean. Question, is the elevator intended to be in place or is it an option?
the elevator will go in from day one for this case here.
Okay, then the access for that unit 3 garage is where?
Sorry?
If the elevator's in,
Yeah.
I'm not aware of an elevator that will allow you access through an elevator to the garage. So that means that there would be another access point, would there not?
There's
From the garage.
Yeah, there's 2 stops there, and then alternatively, you can go out of the garage and up the ramp and in through the front door.
Oh, okay. We have in that elevator layout as it stands now, there's 2 doors indicated. One is into the garage and the other is into the lobby area.
Correct.
The one that's going into the garage, when would that exist?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay, if the elevator's in place from day one, then the elevator access from the lobby is a requirement. It would be used from entry. That's correct?
The elevator will stop at both levels, is what I'm getting at.
And it'll be there when the building gets an occupancy permit, like you're putting it in as part of the construction?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me take a shot at this.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I think the question we're asking here is that on the drawings, it shows 2 entrances into the elevator.
Sorry?
And on the drawings we have,
Yep.
shows 2 entrances into the first floor elevator.
Yes.
So coming off the garage and going into the lobby. I don't know of an elevator that has that kind of construction that you can go into it. Is it, yeah, are you coming into an elevator lobby and then into an elevator? Because it doesn't define that on any of the drawings as that elevator goes up to the 2nd floor and 3rd floor.
So
If you're looking at
elevators can have multiple doors. There's answer number 1. You can have 2 doors on an elevator. You can go in from 2 different locations into the same elevator. The elevator will stop. The reason there's 2 doors is the garage is lower than the lobby, right?
All right. Okay.
The ramp between the ramp up the side of the house.
Right.
So it's like a half step, like you may have been to the CRD office downtown on Biscarter Herald Street. There, the entrance lobby is kind of 3 steps lower than the main reception floor, so you can go in there and take it up about 1.5 feet, and then it opens again, and then it can go up further.
Okay.
Okay, just get back to David.
Yeah, not to be belaboring, I'm learning something as we go here. There is an elevator available that has a side access entrance. I'm only familiar with ones that either go from one side to the other opposite. You can get an elevator with the guide rails and everything that will go on an L configuration to the lobby.
Yeah, and the residential elevators, they only need one wall that is the track, right? So you can have doors on two sides.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's fine. Just carrying on with the ramp at the side for the third entry point. In the rear of there, I guess it's underneath the heat pump, is the garbage storage area, which will not be at the same level as the ramp at that point. Is that correct? So getting it from that point out to the laneway is by dragging it across the grass and so forth. It's not intended to go out to the front from that point, is it? Out to Ocean?
Those ones would just go down the side yard, yeah.
So around the ramp and then out to the parking laneway. Is that correct?
Or just directly down that side yard. The east side yard.
Yeah. It just seems a little awkward. There is no formal pathway for that in inclement weather or anything to meet the scheduling of garbage pickups and so forth. So just maybe a point to revisit a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to look into this too. I'd have to defer to one of my team for whether or not the pickup location could not be on 4th Street. It seems like a bit of a fight to bring all of this to Ocean when access along 4th might make more sense. So I actually don't know the answer to that, of why the Ocean frontage was chosen to be the collection area. I don't know if that was an engineering specification, or Allison or Selena, do you have any comment there?
I don't think that would have been an engineering specification. I think that could be something to talk to engineering about.
Okay, thank you.
Just to continue in that thought, the units adjacent, I guess, or further on along Ocean, I think there's a bit of a real missed opportunity from a visual perspective and planting, landscaping, whatever you want to call it, from Ocean with the garbage there, obviously, as opposed to the ability to have some color, some planting and landscaping in that location. So I think it'd be a good point to revisit with whoever to see what other opportunities there might be, or repositioning potentially.
Sure.
We should put that in the recommendation.
Okay. All right.
And oh, okay. All right, thanks. All right. I'm just gonna say that in general, I like this development. I think it looks pretty good. And yeah, well done. All right.
Just if Kim leaves, then we would no longer have a quorum, so the meeting would have to stop.
Right. So
I also just wanted to point it out, with the garbage pickup location, that will be an operational thing that will be part of the development permit.
right.
So that would be subject to engineering requirements and a contractor requirements for garbage pickup and what they're capable of doing and what location will work for them with the development.
The current property has their pickup on 4th.
Okay. I don't know where it is.
They face 4th. They have it. I'm in that area, so I know that's their current one is pick up on 4th. So I like the idea of just having the garbage picked up on 4th for a whole bunch of reasons, as David pointed out. But if that's going to change because it's development, I don't know.
What it clearly shows the trucks can go down for it. And
Yeah.
the big roads, they can probably go
Yeah.
either way.
So if that was the case, I'd for the garden.
So since I'm ready to support the motion and I can vote on that, and if you would like to bring forward the actual motion on the detail, then can you create the indications of the decision without my attendance? Because
I think, I don't know, that would be up to Councillor Duck. I mean, it's just, it's a summary of what was discussed. But
okay, okay.
it's not a vote.
You just need a quorum for voting.
Yeah. 4 minutes, we should vote on both. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's wasted the opponent's time.
All right.
Both of them are very similar to each other.
Yeah.
And I think the
No, I was
comments
thinking
are
about
the
it.
same.
Okay. What's the number on the other one?
Well, take them one at a time still.
Yeah, one at a
Oh,
time.
okay.
Just be quick.
All right. I'll just read it. So the motion is that development permit application number DP 100855 to permit the form and character of a 3-unit residential development for the property at 96014 4th Street to be approved, subject to the condition that the property owner shall, prior to the issuance of building permit, A, pay to the town a deposit of in the amount of 115% of the estimated cost to complete the hard and soft landscaping for the development.
I just have one question for staff. That we were talking about the
Hold on, we need a
Motion is presented.
the motion is presented. We need a mover and a seconder. And David. Okay, now that it has been moved and second, discussion.
I just had a question in that in previous times, the motion has included the aspect of the flood level in the 219. This one does not. Why does that not be included?
Sometimes it is presented as a condition of a development variance permit. This not having variance application involved. It also does come up as a condition of building permit, so that is something that would be addressed before building permits.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, the motion carries. Okay. And so I think in the interest of timekeeping, we're just going to, because we know that the application at 2436 Ocean Avenue is pretty much the same. Selena, do you want to give us a quick run through?
Sure. A 1 minute.
A 1 minute, 1 minute run through?
So this application is also
I think you might have turned it off. Sorry. I'm not getting anything now. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay. I think the button just got pressed. Oh, yeah. So this is a triplex off of Ocean Avenue. It is there is a laneway off of the east side of the property. So there aren't two frontages on this one. I just do want to highlight, although the building is designed very similar to the one at 9601 4th Street, the two buildings are designed in a way that have windows along the common lot lines that are slightly offset, so it minimizes overlap between the buildings. Parking access is in garages accessed off of the laneway as well. Uh, I'll give it back to you, Eric.
Hey, Ryan. Um, do you have anything that you want to point out on this development that's any different than 9601 4th Street?
I'll take 20 seconds. I think just highlighting here, obviously a different condition fronting Ocean and a laneway versus Ocean and Fourth. So a slightly different arrangement, but the parking and access is still compliant with the laneway and the general access flow, grading, everything is very much similar to what is happening next door. These are going to be built concurrently by the same developer, so the look and feel and overall relationship of these two buildings will sort of present as one development. And I think looking at heat pump locations and some of the comments as far as where those are located and how they're going to relate. In this case, they're going to be between two vertical three-story massings. And again, in that sense, there's very little sight line and visibility because of the relationship between these two buildings. So I think in that case, it sort of justifies what we're doing here. Whereas in other cases, sometimes you're planning for what inevitably might happen next door versus putting those heat pumps somewhere else. So that's all I'll say. But I think really it's a formula that works really well, and that's why it's effectively been mirrored and then altered slightly, as Selena had pointed out, so that it's not a perfect mirror and windows aren't looking into each other. And obviously, there's some thought there as to how these two buildings will interact. So, thank you.
All right. Does anybody have anything super fast to say?
The only thing I was gonna say is between the garage to unit 3 and foyer, I feel like there should be a door because if somebody wants to pull their car in and they want to take the stairs because they're being healthy, or their significant other is using the elevator to otherwise take Christmas decorations from the flex area upstairs. It would be nice to not have to exit the garage through the garage door, walk around to the entry foyer. Did you catch that? I think you're muted. Brian,
Yes.
did you catch that?
There was something about access to the elevator, sorry, from the
Sorry, a door directly from the garage on unit 3 to the entry foyer. So if somebody pulls their car into the garage and they want to take the stairs, they don't have to go through the elevator. If the other elevator is otherwise being occupied between the second and third floor, they have access to the stairs. Or
Yeah,
if they come down the stairs, they can go into the garage. Or is there like a fire code reason for that? Or
It's the level relationship there. Again, the garage, because of the extremely low site grade, the garage is below. So we have that ramp on the outside. And in this
yeah,
case, it was going to take up too much space out of the foyer to have another set of stairs to go from the garage up into the foyer. And
oh yeah,
the thought was that if the elevator was built, which it will be, that will be the favored means of access to go from the garage directly into the elevator and all the way up to the third story. So.
a lot of healthy people like to take stairs. So with the elevator, it's actually a separate stop for the garage versus the entry foyer.
That's correct.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We're gonna lose our quorum soon.
All right. Yeah, let's vote.
Did on the way by. Quick comment, similar comment on the, I think it's the east again with the expanse of white and also the location of the garbage.
Motion is that development permit application number DP 100856 to permit the form and character of a 3-unit residential development for the property at 2436 Ocean Avenue be approved, subject to the condition that the property owner shall, prior to the issuance of building permit, 1, pay to the town a deposit in the amount of 115% of the estimated cost to complete the hard and soft landscaping for the development.
Moved. Second. Todd. Okay. Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Motion carries. All right. Kim, thank you for your service. We will get a record of decision about both of these developments. Thank you, Ryan, for bringing these forward to the town. I really look forward to seeing new folks living in these new developments when they finally are finished.
Did you notice with this garbage recycling? Look at this 80.00 total. The money shot actually has the garbage recycling on the sides. It has gardens on the front. On Ocean. So. Got it. Well, just this one here, when they put the two properties beside each other,
Number?
8A0.00, but there's it's the one shot with the two of them together. So the artist rendering, I think they're playing around with where the recycling goes. So if we want to make it as a record of a decision, that would be nice if they maximize the oceanfront landscaping to the best possible degree.
On 51 of 60, is that the sheet that you're on? Yeah, you
on Ocean or Forest?
There's one right here that has both.
Oh, that one. Okay. Yeah. All right. So,
And then on the very next page, it shows us it again in front of it. So they're struggling to know where to put that garbage right here.
okay. So for 9601 4th Street, I'll just do a quick summary. I think overall the committee liked the design. Copy paste, it's a wonderful thing, right? So yeah,
And this is just to maximize the landscape. Oh, that's what for both properties.
so 9601 5th Street, I think had more issues that were wrong with it than this one and the subsequent
That's
one.
fair.
I think the heat pump locations, it actually came out in the wash that the reason why they were up so high was because of the flood level, and then the screening on that was just the best place to put them. And then I don't think we had, like, in my notes here, it didn't come up about screening for parking on the 9601 4th Street or the 2436. So in terms of actual recommendations,
So I had the one about the post.
yeah, the post in the entry, or
It didn't look like a substantial enough post that it would win the fight against the car,
correct.
which would cause significant structural damage. So
Consider removing the post between two parking spaces
Yeah.
or something.
Exactly. In order to minimize structural damage.
I also had part about the fact that that top deck is going to fill with snow and turn to slush and flood the
Yeah.
cover.
How do you
Um,
Are they allowed to have the roof project out more? To cover that, have more covered deck?
They could,
And they could also have side glass pieces going from that roof projection down.
I think to our earlier discussion about how much specific design direction is APC giving versus raising the comments is like we talked about these things.
I was just gonna, I didn't want to say something can't do, so I was gonna say just like altered architecture to minimize the amount of snow that will land on the deck and look at drainage options to prevent flooding.
Yeah, and then as the final one for, or I think it was the final one for this one here, is just look into where the garbage was going to be located. That staff work with the proponent to find suitable locations for garbage and recycling, stowage, and collection locations. Unless they have a really strong fan.
Or if you have a separate room for the toilet, usually if something like, if it's a common area, you have the toilet in the separate room.
Okay. Right. We could just say it was discussed that the access to the walk-in closet through the ensuite should be looked at.
I don't think interior layout has anything to do with forming character, does it?
No, it
No,
doesn't.
but it was discussed. Again, Ryan, this record of decision doesn't necessarily specify things that the proponent that you guys have to do. It's just a record of what was discussed during the meeting. Anything that you guys actually have to do was in the motion. Yeah. All right. And I think because the two developments are a mirror of each other, all of that would apply to 2436 Ocean as well, right? Yeah. I believe so. I'm pretty happy with that. Is everyone else, David, Rob, you guys happy?
Good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Thanks, Deb.
All right. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Selena. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Ruth. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I want to do item 6 on the agenda. Disposition. I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about.
No, I mean, I don't think there's anything that we have that would require being reported as APC directed, so.
Just the 9824 Street
Yeah.
that APC recommended.
Yeah, so 98 Third Street, the development there, which, as you saw, the architect essentially put a box into a square hole, so fit the space and accommodate it, and went with the recommendations that came from APC. So that development is going ahead as planned. Allison, is he going to add to that?
No,
Yeah.
I think, yeah,
No, it was, as you know, Alan Lowe presented that at the last APC meeting, and essentially has, had an orphan lot we had to fill, and I think it was a very productive design, and certainly the feedback from APC relative to the backside screening, especially, and the parking lot were both incorporated into that.
Great. Have a motion to adjourn. Todd and David, all those in favor? Okay.
Thanks, Allison.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Old news.